Welcome to POSTCAST tonight. David Locke along with Ron Boone. POSTCAST is your post-game show from the radio team. After tonight, by the way, I will give you the feature to open up questions so you can ask questions during the show. I tried to do it tonight, and somehow it didn't seem to click in and work the way I thought it was going to. So hopefully in the future, if you have a question right after a game, you can get onto the POSTCAST with us, and you can ask that question through the Google Hangout. So that's available to you, but let's talk about tonight's game. We got a preseason game, number 5, and a regular season game broke out. All the 4 previous games, I think you could legitimately say, like, okay, it was a preseason game. I thought tonight, at the intensity of a regular season game, the Clippers clearly went at it. They closed with offensive and defensive substitutions with their best guys. The minutes played were huge, and the Jazz, from a big picture standpoint, played right with them in a remarkable fashion. And I thought, if you're going to take any night of this preseason to say that this Jazz team is much better than people think it's going to be, tonight's the night I think you can do that.
Absolutely, and I think everyone saw that as well. And you know, as you just mentioned, both teams using their timeouts, making defensive, offensive substitutions, looking to try to win the basketball games, win this basketball game down the stretch. Now, what that does is it not only does it give your team some experience in closing basketball games out, but the Clippers, you know, who are 0-3 coming into tonight's game, actually were working very hard trying to win this ball game.
Do you have a big picture takeaway tonight? I mean, we saw the Clippers get into them. We saw fisticuffs. We saw flagrant fouls. We saw all sorts of stuff.
Well, you mentioned exactly, you know, the takeaway is that Jazz responded. They took the punch. They punched back and gave themselves a chance to win the basketball game. They made big shots. They executed well in some stretches. They made big plays out of timeouts. But the bottom line was the experience of the Clippers in the closing minutes of the basketball game and some very good diagrams. I'm drawing up some plays at the end. Got the shots that they wanted, and they made them. Jazz made a couple of mistakes down the stretch, but you know that's way it's going to be.
Jamal Crawford just went nuts.
He really did. I mean, they made 5 of 11 3-point shots in their fourth quarter, and that's really what beat the Jazz. And I've said all along, you know, that the Jazz are going to have to fight to win every basketball game, and you can see just that. They continue to fight back like that, they're going to be in the basketball games. They continue. Tonight was the first night that they did not get a lot of uncontested shots. The three ball games that they've been getting. Good execution. They got a lot of uncontested shots. They shot great percentage in all of those ball games. Tonight, they had to fight for everything they got, and they responded. I was very pleased with them.
Okay, if we take a step back from the emotion of this game, and if you didn't catch the game, what happened was in the third quarter, Blake Griffin, in what was an already pretty intense preseason game, but it was still a preseason game, went for a dunk. Trevor Booker blasted him with his left arm. He blasted him. There's no question. It was called a flagrant one, which I would dispute. Because I thought he got a hand on the ball, and what I don't understand is that Blake Griffin at 6'9", 260 pounds, if you don't foul him that hard, he scores. Yeah. So what are you supposed to do? I guess the league doesn't want you to foul him, and you just go let him dunk. But, you know, I guess. I don't know. So he got the flagrant, and it fired everyone up. Chris Paul went and scored the next 2 possessions, and the game got going, and the crowd was into it, and suddenly we were on. But
it was a 9-0 run
right
after that.
And the Jazz then answered with a 9-2 run the fourth. Then we went possession by possession, timeout by timeout late, all sorts of execution from both sides. Jamal Crawford hitting threes, Favors hits Gobert for a dunk. Now, if you pull yourself out of that and you can feel the energy still I have palpitating through me into the preseason, there's 2 or 3 huge takeaways tonight from preseason. One was Rodney Hood got the start and got 2 fouls in the first 55 seconds. Really had a hard time. With Alec Burks out, the first sub was Ian Clark.
Yes.
So that's the first takeaway, that Ian Clark has really earned himself. You know, maybe it's one spot removed out of the rotation, but it's a spot at least that he took advantage of without Alec Burks tonight. And Clark seems to have pleased Quinn Snyder with some of the things he does.
Well, I thought at the beginning of the training camp that was his job. He gets hurt. Dante comes in, he plays well. You know, obviously, he's going to demand some minutes because he's probably the player of the future for this basketball team. But Ian Clark was not playing bad during that stretch, and obviously, Quinn Snyder rewarded him and put him out there on the floor. But he has to look at these players. He has to look at them in certain situations and at crucial times during the course of the basketball game. And Ian got the call.
And then the second one was that in a major moments of defense, he went to Dante Jones. You could see where he has faith. I don't know if Dante makes this team or not, but you can see where he has faith in Dante Jones. I mean, it's one night. You're not going to just make roster decisions based on one night, but when he needed defense to stop, he went to the 10-year veteran out of Duke.
And that's the point that I was just going to make. I think he makes this team. He's a veteran player. I've watched him talk to players out there on the floor. How important is that? We watched Richard Jefferson last year talk to a lot of the young players on the team. That's important. There's going to be questions from these young guys.
There's got to be somebody.
You need someone to be able to answer.
I mean, we don't have anyone, right? Trevor Booker's another veteran at 26 years old.
Yeah.
And then the other one that was interesting, and Booker was out with a sprained ankle after that incident. Kanter was struggling, and they closed with Favors and Gobert together, a lineup that I think most people thought could not play together. It's curious. I'll tell you what, if they can, it's brutal on spacing. But if you can figure out a way to score a little defensively, it could be great.
Well, we talked about this, I think, I'm trying to remember, maybe about 2 or 3 games ago. Was it possible? And we didn't think so because we didn't think the spacing would be there. But with the 2 big guys there, Haas and Jordan, I think that Snyder experimented with it. It worked out pretty well. It gives Rudy some confidence. And I like what I saw with Rudy. Once he got the basketball at the top of the key and he didn't try to force a pass, he just dribble out of traffic, set the screen and pass at the same time to make sure that I was impressed with with him doing those type of things. So hopefully, he continues to get better and will demand some playing time.
Every conversation we've had is about how this system's going to help players. I think we might be fair to bring up a concept that maybe there's some parts of this system that could maybe not fit a player, right? I mean, it's a pretty change. And Enes Kanter, through 5 games of preseason, there has to be a huge question mark about whether or not Enes Kanter can figure out what his role is inside this system.
Yeah, we talked about and him being a stretch 4. You brought that up. You're thinking that this is what the picture that they had for him. I'm not giving up on that, David, because I've watched him knock down those little 15-footers, and that's where he's struggling with right now. Last year, he struggled with defense, picking up assignments quickly. Hopefully that can change because I think he can help this team. But I think that mid-range jump shot, he can't just get caught up in, okay, now I'm a stretch 4, I got to shoot threes.
He's missing everything. He's at 36%, I think, off the top of my head for the preseason.
Yeah,
he's missing a lot.
He's probably puts a little pressure on himself right now, and he's tightening up a little bit.
And that's going to be interesting to see how Quinn deals with that because that's an area where Enes is not as best. The other final one tonight, let's go back to where we got lost in all the shenanigans tonight. The other part tonight that I think is most important is where we started the broadcast. This was another night for Jazz. The concept was 3-part storyline to open the night. The Jazz trying to prove again what they can. I think they proved it. The Clippers trying to say, hey, wait a sec, let's get. They certainly did that. The third storyline was how does Dante Exum play against the team that forced 8 turnovers on him and kind of got a book on him? And the answer was he was electric. He was just terrific in the second quarter tonight.
Yeah, and how many? You had 3. You had 2. No, 0.
0 turnovers. He had 9 points, and he's shooting over 50% from 3 in the preseason. He was just great tonight.
And hopefully he watched films, and I'm sure that he got some advice from one of the.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Johnny Bryant halftime interview said that they sat down before the Laker game and watched film of both the Lakers and of the last Clipper matchup to prepare him for this 2-night sequence. And that Johnny said he was a very willing participant, and that seems to have really helped him.
Yeah, because you and I talked about him dribbling a little bit too much in traffic. And with Chris Paul, those hands very low to the floor, he likes to steal right off the bounce and come up with deflections and that type of thing. And boy, it's good when kids at 19 years old, he listens and then takes advantage of it. That's nice. I'm glad to hear that.
Great night, fun night, best preseason game we've been a part of in a long time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of intensity tonight. We'll come back here on Sunday with the Lakers. On behalf of Ron, I'm David. This has been POSTCAST. Make sure you catch Jazz Game Rewind if you missed the game tonight, as well as Empty the Noggin is questionable tonight. We'll see if it comes out. See you.